There is a subtle ache in the soul that cannot be quieted by noise, achievement, or acquisition. It is the silent hunger we all carry, not for more things, but for more truth, for deeper love, for an untethered freedom. And in a world that constantly tells you to strive, to prove, to grasp, what if the real invitation was something else entirely? What if your liberation did not lie in getting more, but in wanting less? What if your freedom wasn't something to attain, but something to remember? From the first breath you took, you were already whole. There was no lack, no missing piece, no requirement that needed to be fulfilled for you to be worthy of love. The sky did not ask the newborn sun to earn its place. The rivers did not demand the raindrops prove their value. So why should you? You were not born into this world to collect things or labels or approval. You were born to radiate, to expand, to remember what the soul already knows, that love is not something you get, it's what you are. And freedom is not found in the absence of limits, but in the presence of truth. The ego will scream for more. It will tell you that joy lies in the next possession, the next title, the next conquest. But the soul whispers something ancient. It says, you don't need to acquire, you need to let go. Wanting less does not mean desiring nothing. It means desiring only what is true, only what is real, only what cannot be taken from you. True wealth is not counted in currency, it is counted in clarity, in the lightness of being that comes when you no longer carry the burden of needing to be someone else. In the deep sigh of relief that arises when you realize you are not missing anything, you have simply been misdirected. Imagine the freedom that blooms when you no longer need to impress, when you can stand still, heart open, and say with unwavering certainty, this is who I am enough. Not because you've reached perfection, but because you've returned to presence. This is the invitation of your life, not to become something grander, but to unveil what has always been sacred within you. You are not here to chase love. You are here to remember that love is the current you were born from. You are not here to escape pain. You are here to see that pain itself can be the doorway to your awakening. There is a kind of richness that cannot be bought. It's the richness of a quiet mind, the abundance of a peaceful heart. The treasure of knowing that even if everything were stripped away, your essence would still remain untouched, radiant, whole. You are not the sum of your accomplishments. You are not the echo of other people's opinions. You are not the weight of your regrets or the projection of your fears. You are the light that sees all of this and remains unchanged. You are the observer, not the drama. You are the space, not the story. And in that space, love lives. Not the kind of love that clings or demands or fluctuates with mood and circumstance, but the kind that asks nothing and gives everything. The kind that is not a transaction, but a truth. That is the love you are made of. And it does not increase by force. It expands through surrender. When you let go of needing more, you begin to see more clearly. The eyes of the ego blur your vision, always painting reality with lack. But the eyes of the soul, the eyes of the soul see abundance in simplicity, joy in stillness, connection in silence. You are not here to outdo anyone. You are here to outgrow your own illusions, to outgrow the belief that more will finally make you feel enough, to outgrow the lie that freedom is something earned rather than remembered. What if you could bless your life exactly as it is? What if you could hold your imperfections like sacred scars and say, this too is part of the beauty? What if the things you've been avoiding are the very portals through which grace has been trying to reach you? You see, the spiritual path is not a climb upward, it is a return inward. And it is not lined with gold, but with humility, with presence, with the courage to stop running. To want less is not to reject life, it is to embrace it more fully. It is to no longer dilute your existence with unnecessary striving. It is to trust that what is meant for you cannot pass you by, and what is not meant for you cannot fill you. The Tao Te Ching says, he who knows that enough is enough will always have enough. The moment you stop seeking completion outside yourself, you discover that it was never out there to begin with. You are not a beggar in search of love. You are the source from which love pours. You are not broken. Waiting to be repaired, you are whole, waiting to be revealed. There is no joy in constantly acquiring. There is no peace in endlessly comparing. But there is profound liberation in presence, in being where you are, as you are, with nothing to hide and nothing to prove. Want less. Not as an act of deprivation, but as an act of devotion. Devotion to what is real, what endures, what sings quietly in the background of your being, waiting to be heard. Love more. Not as an obligation, but as your nature. Let your love be fierce, soft, wide, and unconditional, not because others deserve it, but because you deserve the peace that flows from giving it freely. Be free. Not because the world has given you permission, but because your soul has never been anything else. You were not created to live in cages of fear or boxes of expectation. You were created to soar, to sing the unique melody only your heart knows how to sing. And so, beloved one, let this be your sacred rebellion. Want less, love more. Be free, because you already are. You are not the noise that surrounds you. You are not the rush of the world or the weight of what's expected. You are the silence that remains when all the noise is gone. And in that silence, the soul remembers. It remembers that freedom is not about adding more, but releasing the illusions that have clouded your essence. When you begin to unclench your fists, when you stop grasping for what was never yours, to hold something wholly unfolds. A lightness enters. A peace that asks for nothing, explains nothing, just is. It is the peace of being what you are without needing a reason. So much of what we call life has become a performance, a constant audition for belonging. But your soul never auditioned. It was born belonging. The stars did not compete for space in the sky, they simply shined. And so must you, not louder, not brighter, but truer. The kind of truth that does not conform to the world, but transforms the world by its very presence. You will find that as your desires dissolve, your joy deepens. The less you chase, the more you attract, not because you've manipulated life, but because you've aligned with it. There is a rhythm, a natural flow, and it is not frantic, it is not hurried. It is not afraid. It moves like the ocean, steady and certain. And when you sync with that rhythm, your life becomes poetry. Not in perfection, but in presence. Not in outcome, but in essence. To love more is to suffer less. Not because love makes everything easy, but because love makes everything sacred. Even the pain, even the waiting, even the heartbreak. When you love from the soul, you stop asking life to protect you from experience. You begin to ask only that you remain awake through it. That you not close your heart, no matter how sharp the world becomes. Because to love more is to live deeper. It is to let the sunlight reach places in you that were once closed. It is to give without bargaining, to speak without armor, to hold others not as objects of gain, but as mirrors of the same sacred light that lives in you. And to be free, to be free is the most radical act of all. It is to rise beyond identity, to see yourself not as a name, a role, a resume, but as a wave in the great ocean of being. To know that you are not separate, that your breath is the breath of the cosmos, that your thoughts ripple through the unseen fabric of life. Freedom is not rebellion against the world, it is reunion with the self. It is not about detaching from all things, but about no longer being owned by them. True freedom cannot be granted to you by the world, because the world did not give it to you. It was yours before time began. It is the song beneath the silence, the truth behind the form. And once you remember this, once you feel it in your bones rather than understand it in your mind, no prison of thought or fear can hold you again. There are no chains when you remember who you are. No cage can contain the soul that no longer identifies with its walls. And this is the quiet revolution, to live not in reaction, but in realization. To walk the earth not as one in search of worth, but as one who has found it within and now blesses the world by simply being. There is no need to shout your truth when you have become it. There is no need to seek love when you have become the presence in which love awakens. There is no need to run toward freedom when you are already standing in the wide open field of your own being. And so I say again, want less, not as denial, but as liberation. Love more, not as a strategy, but as your sacred inheritance. Be free, not someday, not after, but now. Because now is where eternity lives. Now is the home of the soul, and now is all that has ever been asked of you. There comes a moment quiet, unannounced, holy, when the weight of all your striving begins to tremble, when the scaffolding you built around your identity no longer feels like safety, but a soft prison. It's not collapse you feel, it's awakening, a loosening of what was never truly you, the face you wore to be liked, the dreams you pursued because someone once said you should, the roles you stepped into out of fear, not freedom. And slowly, gently, like mist lifting at dawn, you begin to see yourself clearly, not the idea of you, but the essence, the wordless truth beneath every layer. You do not need to improve this essence. You do not need to polish or perfect it. You only need to stop covering it with what it is not. There is a sacred simplicity in remembering this, in choosing less not as a lack but as a return to what is essential, to what is nourishing, to what makes the soul sigh in relief. You are not meant to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. You are meant to feel the breeze on your skin, to taste the moment, to touch life without needing to own it. And in that touching, in that innocent contact with the now, you find something deeper than joy. You find peace, not the peace of perfection, not the peace of a world behaving the way you want, but the peace of alignment, the peace of being with what is, without resisting, without needing to escape. Let yourself long for less. Let your heart ache not for what's next, but for what's real. There is a hunger in the soul that no amount of success or status can satisfy. It longs not for more applause, but for more silence. It aches not for validation, but for presence. And in presence, everything changes. You begin to hear things differently. The way a bird sings in the stillness, the way your breath rises and falls without effort. The way someone's eyes soften when they realize you are truly seeing them, not just looking through them. These are not small moments, they are sacred. They are life whispering to you, this is enough, you are enough, stay here. The mind will rebel. It has been trained to run, to measure, to compare. But the soul does not move in straight lines, it spirals. It dances, it returns. And each time it returns, it sheds a little more of what isn't love. It peels away another layer of pretending. And what is left is something so raw, so unprotected, so unmanufactured, that it cannot help but radiate truth. This is what the world needs. Not more cleverness, not more noise, but more souls who are brave enough to be soft, brave enough to be real, brave enough to love without condition, without possession, without demand. Love, in its purest form, is the most fearless act there is. It does not wait to be earned. It does not ask for guarantees. It moves freely, like water, like breath, like light. And when you stop needing love to look a certain way, when you allow it to simply be what it is, you become the space in which love thrives. You stop holding it like a possession and begin living it like a presence. This kind of love cannot be taken. It cannot be lost, because it is not dependent on outcome. It is not fragile. It is eternal. It is the pulse beneath every heartbeat, the thread that weaves all beings together. And when you love this way, unconditionally, unguardedly, unreasonably, you free yourself. You let go of the need to be loved back in a certain form. You begin to trust that all the love you give is not wasted, because it is not meant to be returned. It is meant to be released, meant to purify you, meant to open you, meant to expand the temple of your heart until it can hold the whole world without breaking. This is what it means to be free, not to float above life untouched, but to walk through it open, to cry when your heart breaks and still keep it open, to fail and still choose worthiness, to fall and rise, not with bitterness, but with deeper compassion, to know that nothing you lose can take away what you are. You are not here to escape the world. You are here to remember who you are within it. You are not here to dominate life. You are here to dance with it, to listen, to serve, to bless with your being, not your pretending. And so you stop performing. You stop waiting for permission to be real. You stop delaying your joy for a future that never quite arrives. You choose presence. You choose now. You choose this moment as your homecoming. Want less, because everything you need is already here. Love more, because love is what you are. Be free, because nothing was ever holding you back but the belief that you weren't. Let this knowing bloom in your chest like light at dawn, slow and golden and true. Let it move through you like breath. Let it become not something you visit, but something you live. Let your very being be a sermon of stillness in a world that has forgotten the sacred. Let your life say what your words cannot. Let it sing. And when the world asks who you are, do not point to your resume. Do not offer your image. Just smile and be. There will come a day when the rush no longer excites you, when the chase feels hollow, when you've climbed the ladders, worn the masks, filled your calendar with things that promise meaning, and yet your soul still whispers, this isn't it. That whisper is not weakness, it is awakening. It is the echo of the divine within you, gently unraveling the illusion that your worth lies in accumulation. It is not the voice of failure, but of freedom. It does not scold you for the years spent striving, it honors them, for they brought you to the threshold of remembrance. And now you stand not at the edge of something missing, but at the doorway of something eternal. Wanting less is not a resignation, it is a reclamation. It is the fierce return to enoughness, a holy rebellion against the culture of more. You no longer consume to feel full. You no longer measure your joy in things you own. Instead, you begin to feel fullness in moments, in a warm cup between your hands, in the way light spills across a wooden floor, in a breath taken without rush, in a smile that asks for nothing. You begin to feel full, not because of what you've gathered, but because of what you've released. And when you release, space is created, not just around you, but within you. Space for peace to rise, space for truth to echo, space for God not as a distant deity, but as the unnameable stillness that lives in the silence between your thoughts. In that space, you stop grasping for meaning and begin becoming meaning. You stop looking for the light and realize you are the light, hidden beneath layers of becoming. You were never meant to find yourself in the noise, you were meant to lose the noise to find yourself. This is where love expands. Not the conditioned love that comes with requirements and contracts and unspoken debts, but the kind of love that needs no return, no recognition. The kind of love that is a state of being, not a transaction. You stop asking, do they love me? And start asking, am I embodying love in this moment? And when you do, you realize that love is not something to get, it is something to give. Not because others deserve it, but because you deserve to live in its frequency. This kind of love cannot be contained. It spills into your words, your glances, your stillness. It moves through you like music through an instrument, and the people who are meant to hear it feel it will. Not because you tried to convince them, but because you simply allowed yourself to become what you already are. And in this allowing, freedom is no longer a destination, it is a return to living untethered from the need to be more than what already is. You begin to see that your value does not rise and fall with your productivity, that your sacredness was never attached to your success, that your spirit does not require you to win, it requires you to be. And not just be, but to be deeply, presently, lovingly, as if every breath were a blessing, as if every moment were enough, because it is. Even the painful ones, especially the painful ones, because pain has a way of cracking the shell of illusion, of bringing you to your knees not as a punishment, but as a prayer. And when you are brought low enough, you begin to see clearly that the ground beneath you is holy, that the breaking is not the end, it is the beginning of seeing with new eyes. This is why you are here, not to gather trophies, but to dissolve the false self, not to outshine others, but to outgrow the illusions that kept you small, not to be perfect, but to be whole. And wholeness is not something achieved, it is something uncovered, like light under dust, like truth beneath conditioning. So let the dust fall, let the masks drop, let the striving end. You are not a project to be completed, you are a mystery to be lived. You are not here to reach the mountaintop, you are here to become the mountain. Still, strong, silent, and unmovable in your knowing. And your knowing is this: you lack nothing, you never did. You've simply been told otherwise by a world that profits from your forgetting. But no more. Now, you remember that simplicity is power. You remember that gentleness is strength. You remember that freedom is not what you earn, it's what you allow. Want less, not because you cannot have more, but because you no longer need it to feel complete. Love more, not because the world is perfect, but because your nature is to bless it anyway. Be free, not because you've escaped your life, but because you've finally stepped fully into it. This is what it means to come home, to no longer wait for life to begin later, to stop editing yourself for a future that may never arrive, to breathe deeply and openly and say this is enough, and I am enough in it. Stay here, dear soul. Don't drift away again. Stay where life meets you with open arms. Stay where love moves through you like a prayer. Stay where freedom is no longer a destination, but the essence of your being. Stay where you belong. Here, now, always. There is a sacred rhythm that life plays, one that cannot be heard through the clutter of craving or the drumbeat of ambition. It is soft, like a lullaby sung by the stars. It is still, like the breath between thoughts, and it calls to you not to race ahead, not to rise above, but to sink deeply into what already is. This rhythm does not follow the world's tempo. It asks you to slow, to soften, to listen, not with your ears, but with your soul. It does not demand performance. It invites presence. And the moment you align with this sacred rhythm, you stop dancing to someone else's song and begin moving to the music that was always playing inside you. You see, wanting less is not about denying your desires. It is about clarifying them, distilling them to their purest form. Beneath every surface want lies a deeper truth. You think you want the promotion, but what you really want is to feel seen. You think you want the perfect partner, but what you truly yearn for is to feel understood. You chase possessions, not for their weight, but for the lightness you believe they will bring. But lightness cannot be bought. It is remembered. It rises not from gain, but from release, from unburdening yourself of everything that was never yours to carry the expectations, the projections, the inherited fears. When you lay them down, even just for a moment, you begin to taste freedom, not as a concept, but as a state of being. And in that freedom, love blooms, not as a fragile flower needing constant tending, but as an eternal flame that asks only to be uncovered. This is not love that comes and goes with seasons or circumstances. This is not love that waits for someone to deserve it. This is love that just is because you are. It does not ask, what can I get? It asks, what can I give? It does not shrink in the face of pain, it expands. And when you let this love lead, you begin to live differently. You speak with more gentleness. You touch with more reverence. You look into the eyes of a stranger and recognize something familiar, because beneath the mask, you see yourself. This is how you remember that we are not separate, that freedom is not only a personal pursuit, it is a collective one. You begin to understand that every time you choose presence over performance, you free not just yourself, but everyone you encounter. Your stillness becomes an invitation. Your wholeness becomes a mirror. You no longer need to convince anyone of your worth. Your being speaks louder than words ever could. You stop fighting for space and instead create it within. You stop clinging to outcomes and start trusting the flow. And the flow, dear one, is wise. It knows where you belong. It knows the path, even when your mind does not. Your only task is to surrender, not in defeat, but in devotion. To let go not of effort, but of resistance. To stop shaping yourself into what you think the world wants and start becoming who you truly are. Unedited, unfiltered, unafraid. This is not a comfortable path. It is not always easy to live without armor, but it is the only path that leads home. To walk this way is to walk in faith, to trust that your essence is enough, that your presence is your offering, that you are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to understand yourself so completely that the need for approval dissolves. And in that dissolution, joy is reborn. Not the spike of pleasure that fades quickly, but the steady hum of contentment that remains. A joy that comes not from what happens, but from how deeply you are rooted in what is. You begin to see beauty where others see lack. You begin to feel gratitude for what once felt insufficient, because you no longer look at life with the eyes of desire, you look with the eyes of love. You wake up and you no longer ask, what can I achieve today? You ask, how can I show up fully? You drink your tea not while scrolling, but while listening to your breath, to the bird song, to the miracle of your own existence. You speak not to impress, but to express. You touch not to possess, but to bless. And slowly the world around you begins to shift, not because you've changed it, but because you've changed how you see it. You realize that the things you once called problems were often invitations to go deeper, to return inward, to let go. You see that nothing was ever missing, that the love you longed for, the freedom you sought, the peace you chased, they were all here, quietly waiting beneath your wanting. So you release the chase, you bless the longing, you bow to the mystery, and you rest, not in laziness, but in trust. Trust that your life is unfolding with perfect intelligence, that your being is guided by something greater than your plans, that your presence is the greatest gift you can offer this world. Want less, not because life asks you to shrink, but because your soul longs to expand beyond the confines of desire. Love more, not because it is easy, but because it is who you are when you stop pretending. Be free, not as a destination, but as a daily decision to return to your essence. This is your path, not outward, but inward, not toward more, but toward meaning. And it begins now in this breath, in this heartbeat, in this holy, unrepeatable moment. And now, like twilight descending not as an end, but as a beginning dressed in softness, the story of your return deepens into silence. Not the silence of absence, but of presence. The sacred hush that falls over the soul when it no longer seeks to become, but simply allows itself to be. This is where all journeys lead not to the horizon, but to the heart. Not to the summit, but to the stillness beneath your skin. There is nothing more to prove, nothing more to gather, nothing more to chase. You have wandered far through the forests of longing, climbed the hills of ambition, wandered deserts of comparison, and yet it is in the quiet clearing of now that you finally feel the earth beneath your feet, solid and sure, whispering, you are home. Home not as a place, but as a knowing, a vibration that hums from your core and tells you, you never left. The truth was never lost. You were never separate. You only forgot. And now you remember that wanting less doesn't mean living with lack. It means living with lightness. It means unburdening your soul from what never fed it. It means letting go of the armor, the urgency, the need to keep explaining your existence. Because your existence explains itself. It breathes, it feels, it pulses with purpose, simply by being. You remember that love is not something to earn. It is the current beneath all things. It is the sky that holds both sun and storm. It is the fire that warms and purifies. You love now not because others meet your expectations, but because love itself is your natural state. You love because you have emptied yourself of the need to be loved in return. You have become a vessel for love, to flow through, not clinging, not forcing, just flowing. And you remember that freedom is not an escape from life, it is an immersion in it. It is the choice to show up with your full presence, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Freedom is not what happens when circumstances align, it is what happens when you align. When you drop the illusion of control and rise into the reality of surrender. When you let the river of life carry you, not passively, but trustingly, knowing that wherever it takes you, you are already enough. There is a peace now, not the peace of quiet surroundings, but of quiet within. A calmness that no longer depends on the world's behavior, but arises from your own rootedness. You are no longer pulled by the tides of approval or the winds of judgment. You stand not stiffly, but deeply, like a tree that has sunk its roots so far into being that it can sway without fear, bend without breaking, bloom without striving. And this, dear soul, is the final unfolding, not a finale, but a flowering. A revelation that what you thought was the end was always the threshold. That letting go is not the loss of something, but the arrival of everything. That in shedding all you are not, you finally behold all that you are. You are not your fears, though you've known them well. You are not your wounds, though they've carved you deeply. You are not even your story, though it has brought you here. You are the awareness that holds it all. You are the sky and the stars and the silence between them. You are the breath and the space that welcomes it. You are the miracle that no longer needs to perform to be real. So rest now, not in passivity, but in profound presence. Rest in the love that requires no conditions. Rest in the freedom that has no opposite. Rest in the truth that asks for nothing but your return. You have come far, not in miles, but in remembrance. And now you are here. Want less, love more. Be free, not because the journey is done, but because you are finally walking it as you truly are. There is a quiet truth that has always been whispered to you, though perhaps you've not yet paused long enough to hear it. It does not come wrapped in gold or shouted from the rooftops of the world. It comes in stillness. It arrives in silence. It echoes gently in the space between your thoughts, asking not for your belief, only your remembrance. And that truth is this: you are already wealthy. Not because of what you own, not because of how others see you, not because the digits in your account rise and fall with the tides of the world, but because you were born into a universe that lacks for nothing, and the same abundance that stretches stars across the sky breathes within your very being. You see, wealth is not something you chase, it is something you awaken to. It is not a number, it is not a title, it is not a mansion perched upon a hill. Wealth is a state of mind, and more than that, it is a state of soul. It is the deep and unwavering knowing that what you are is already enough, already complete, already full. But the world will try to convince you otherwise. It will whisper that you must strive harder, reach farther, gather more. It will dangle illusions before your weary eyes, saying, when you have this, then you will feel secure. When you own that, then you will be happy. And so you run, you toil. You exhaust yourself chasing shadows, only to find that no external thing can ever fill an inner void. What you are looking for is not out there. The treasure you seek does not reside in someone else's hands. It does not live on a pedestal you must climb. It was planted in the soil of your soul long before you took your first breath. And when you return to that inner soil, when you till it with presence, with gratitude, with truth, you will discover that you were never poor. You were only distracted by the noise of the ego, distracted by the game of comparison, distracted by a culture that worships quantity while starving for quality. But the soul does not care how shiny the world looks on the outside. It yearns for how still the truth feels on the inside. You are not your possessions. You are not the opinions of others. You are not the size of your following or the weight of your resume. You are the awareness beneath it all. You are the infinite essence wrapped in human skin for a little while, learning not how to become more, but how to remember what has always been yours. Let me tell you something that may feel like a paradox. The moment you stop needing wealth to feel whole is the moment you become truly wealthy. Because in that moment, you stop leaking your energy outward, trying to prove something, and begin to gather it inward, anchoring into your divine identity. There are people who walk this earth with empty pockets but overflowing hearts. And there are those with full accounts but starving souls. Which is richer? The Tao teaches that he who knows he has enough is rich. Not he who owns the most, but he who knows he lacks nothing. This knowing is not taught, it is remembered, and it is remembered in stillness. When you quiet the chaos of want, when you stop bowing before the altar of more, you will notice something sacred beneath the noise, a wellspring, a reservoir of peace, joy, and sufficiency that asks nothing of you but presence. And oh, how the ego hates presence. The ego thrives in the future, in the hunger, in the proving, in the promise that someday when all the stars align, then I will be free. But the soul speaks only of now. The soul does not barter in timelines. It does not wait for conditions. It simply radiates the truth of what is. And what is this? You are wealthy beyond measure, not because of what you have, but because of who you are. You are the consciousness that breathes worlds into being. You are the silence that births all sound. You are the abundance that others seek, disguised in a body that forgets. But the forgetting was part of the journey, because there is something profoundly sacred in remembering what you once knew, but chose to forget in peeling back the layers of false identity to find the shimmering truth that never left you. That truth is not earned. It is not achieved. It is inherent. And once you see it, once you truly feel it, everything begins to change. There is a wealth so vast it cannot be counted, yet it resides within a single conscious breath. It is the kind of wealth that does not rust, cannot be taxed, and is never at the mercy of external tides. This wealth is not a possession, but a presence, a quiet radiance that lives beneath your skin, behind your eyes, and within the still chambers of your heart. It is not bound by market trends or fleeting applause. It is eternal, because it is you. You are the treasure you've been trained to search for outside yourself. The mind will argue, of course. It will say, but I must plan, I must hustle, I must compete. The mind has been taught to survive, but the soul does not survive, it expands. And when you shift from survival to expansion, from striving to surrender, you begin to experience life not as a battleground, but as a blessing. You begin to see that your true riches are measured not in things, but in the depth of your awareness, the generosity of your love, the clarity of your presence. How many lives have been spent accumulating only to die empty? How many hearts have been silenced in the chase for approval? There is a sacred courage in stepping off that treadmill, not because you're giving up, but because you're waking up. You're remembering that your value was never conditional, never negotiable, never dependent on the world's ever-changing scale. It was set by the divine itself the moment you were breathed into existence. There is an ancient power in enoughness, not the resignation of scarcity, but the reverent recognition of sufficiency. Enoughness is the soil where miracles grow. When you feel full from within, your outer world begins to echo that wholeness. Not because you've manipulated circumstances, but because you've realigned your frequency. You've tuned yourself to truth. Think of the sun. It does not strive to shine. It simply is. It does not withhold its light until it's validated or celebrated. It radiates because that is its nature. And so it is with your soul. When you live from your essence, you stop dimming your light to fit into smaller molds. You stop contorting yourself to match someone else's idea of success. You begin to glow not with arrogance, but with authenticity. This is the currency of the awakened life, peace that does not depend on perfection, joy that blooms in the now, not someday, gratitude that flows without a ledger, love that expands without condition. And still, the world may not understand. It may call you foolish for choosing simplicity. It may accuse you of naivety for trusting in what cannot be seen. But the soul knows what the intellect cannot grasp. It knows that the unseen is often more real than what we touch, that silence can teach more than sermons, that being is greater than doing. You do not have to convince the world of your worth. You only have to embody it. Your presence, rooted in truth, is more valuable than any resume of achievements, because it carries the weight of eternity. And eternity does not fluctuate. You are here to remember the wealth of your breath, the treasure of your intuition, the gold that is your awareness. These riches cannot be taken. They are not on loan. They are your birthright. Do not measure your life by accumulation. Measure it by alignment. Ask not what you have, but how deeply you dwell in what you are. For the one who is deeply aligned with their essence needs very little. Their joy is not brittle. Their peace is not dependent. Their wealth is woven into their being. And if you've forgotten, that's all right. Even the moon disappears for a time, but it does not cease to be whole. Your wholeness, too, remains untouched beneath the cycles of doubt and desire. You are still the ocean, even when you forget how to swim. So come back. Return not with haste, but with reverence. Return to the sanctuary of your soul, where abundance is not an outcome, but a state. Where love is not earned, but revealed. Where you are no longer a beggar at the door of life, but the very life that gives. And in that space, watch how the world responds, not because you forced it, but because you became a living invitation. An invitation for others to stop chasing and start remembering, to stop proving and start being, to stop reaching and finally arrive. You are not here to accumulate your worth, you are here to express it. And expression is the true wealth. Not the kind that gathers dust, but the kind that transforms rooms, heals hearts, and touches eternity without even trying. This is wealth, the wealth of presence, the wealth of being, the wealth of remembering that what you are is already more than enough. And so we deepen, not into noise, but into silence, into that sacred hush beneath all doing, where the illusions we've worn begin to loosen and fall away, not with struggle, but with surrender. The more you let go of who you thought you had to be, the more the truth of who you are begins to shine through, quietly, luminously, without apology. There is a kind of wealth in this shedding, in the peeling away of roles, masks, and identities built for survival but never meant for peace. It is the wealth of lightness, of not having to prove, perform, or persuade, of simply standing in the unshakable truth of your being and saying, this is enough, I am enough. That moment, that breath, is more valuable than all the gold in the world. But to arrive at such a moment, you must be willing to walk through the fire of illusion, the fire that burns away the belief that your value comes from outside you, the fire that melts the old stories, the ones that whispered, you must earn your place, or you must be more to be loved. No, you must only be real. And in that realness, the soul rejoices, for it recognizes itself. Do not fear the emptiness that comes when the illusions fade. That emptiness is not a void, it is a clearing, a holy space made ready for truth to enter. And when truth enters, it does not shout. It does not demand. It sits quietly like a wise elder waiting for you to remember that it was always there. You see, the great lie of the ego is separation, that you are apart from life, that you must claw your way to some imagined summit to be worthy of rest, of joy, of love. But the soul knows no such story. The soul speaks in the language of wholeness. It does not see you as lacking, it sees you as luminous. It does not ask you to earn it, ask you to receive. There's more wealth in one moment of stillness than in a lifetime of accumulation without awareness. One breath, fully felt, is worth more than all the accolades the world can offer. Because in that breath, you touch eternity. You step out of time, out of mind, out of all concepts, and into presence. Presence is the true opulence. It is the scent of the divine moving through your awareness. It is the gold dust on the floor of your being, waiting to be noticed. And when you notice it, when you begin to truly live from it, then you are no longer ruled by outcomes. You are no longer bound by the dance of gain and loss. You are free. And freedom, my friend, is the most exquisite form of wealth. To wake up and not be tethered to what others think of you. To walk through the world without the ache of comparison, without the burden of pretending, without the fear of being too much or not enough. This is true liberation. And from this liberated place, everything begins to flow, not because you force it, but because you become a clear channel. Life flows through you, not around you. Opportunities find you not because you chase them, but because your energy became magnetic. This is the paradox of true wealth. When you no longer need it to define you, it begins to show up effortlessly. Not always in the form you expected, but always in the form your soul requires. The right connection, the right moment, the right unfolding. All of it arrives when you are aligned with the knowing that you already lack nothing. You have been told to hustle, to grind, to chase. But I tell you, align with truth, align with presence, align with the stillness that is your nature. And from there, let life rise. Let it move not from desperation, but from devotion, not from fear, but from faith, not from striving, but from sacred surrender. There is a kind of music that only silence can hear. There is a kind of wealth that only stillness can spend. And there is a kind of power that only emerges when you stop trying to control the river and instead become the river. Do you feel it now? That current beneath your skin, beneath your thoughts, that silent flow that asks for nothing but your awareness. That is your source. That is your abundance. That is your infinite, eternal, inexhaustible supply. It cannot be measured, but it can be lived. And once you live from it, you will never again believe the lie that you are lacking. Let the world call it strange. Let the mind call it foolish. Let the ego scream for more. And then simply breathe. Simply be. Simply return to the quiet knowing that has never left you. You are not here to collect things. You are here to remember who you are beneath all things. And who you are is wealth itself. Imagine now that everything you have ever sought, every desire, every ambition, every yearning, was never about the thing itself, but about a feeling, a sensation of wholeness, a return to the sacred warmth of being home within yourself. Every goal you chased, every possession you craved, every praise you longed for was your spirit, disguised in pursuit, whispering, "Bring me back to the place where I no longer need." And now you stand at the edge of that place, no longer compelled by the desperate hunger of the ego, but drawn by the gentle gravity of grace. And grace says you don't need to go anywhere. You only need to stop running. The wealth of the awakened is not visible to the eyes of the world. It cannot be appraised, counted, or auctioned. It is the wealth of walking into a room and needing nothing from it. It is the light in your eyes that no achievement can purchase. It is the peace in your breath that no storm can shake. It is the unwavering presence of a soul that remembers. It is not separate from the divine. It is the divine. To live from this remembrance is not arrogance. It is humility. The deep humility of knowing you are not the source of life, but its expression. You do not make the sun rise. You do not beat your own heart. You do not script the stars or summon the tides. And yet all these things move through you without your effort. What greater wealth is there than to be so intimately woven into the fabric of creation? You are not alone. You are not abandoned. You are not unsupported. Every leaf that falls, every breeze that moves across your skin, every synchronicity that graces your path These are the universe's way of saying, I am here, I am with you, I am in you. And to feel this not as a belief, but as a lived experience, is to become truly rich. Let us go further. True wealth is generosity, not the kind that seeks to be noticed, but the kind that pours from fullness. When you live as if you are enough, you give without keeping score. You love without withholding. You serve without resentment. And in doing so, you become a wellspring, a source of nourishment in a world parched by striving. But generosity is not only outward. You must first be generous inward, with your time, with your forgiveness, with your compassion. Can you give yourself the presence you offer to others? Can you look in the mirror and see not a project to be fixed, but a being to be honored? Can you bow not to the reflection, but to the awareness that sees it? That awareness, that still, infinite field behind the form, is your true self. And it has never been poor. It has never been broken. It has never been in need. It has only been waiting for you to remember that the kingdom of heaven is not found in some distant realm. It is found in your own conscious presence, in the way you breathe, in the way you listen, in the way you stop clinging and start allowing. Abundance is not the result of action, it is the natural expression of alignment. When you align with your essence, life begins to bloom around you, not because you demanded it, but because you became a fertile space for miracles to take root. And yes, this is a miracle, the act of remembering, the act of living from being, not from becoming, the act of dropping the false coin of more and picking up the sacred gold of now. You are not a beggar at the gates of life. You are not a servant in search of approval. You are the beloved, already welcome in the house of the infinite. And every time you return to that knowing, even for a moment, you step back into your inheritance. This is what it means to be wealthy, to walk through the world with a quiet knowing, to look into the eyes of a stranger and see yourself, to sit in the presence of pain and know it does not define you, to rise in the morning not with fear, but with gratitude for the breath that speaks of life, still unfolding. You are already rich in ways the world has no language for. You are already free in ways the ego cannot comprehend. And as you continue walking this path, not towards something, but into something, may you feel the gentle shedding of all that was never you. The names, the fears, the masks, let them fall. Let them return to the dust. For beneath them, something radiant stirs, something ancient, something holy, the essence that was never poor, never lost, never separate. The essence that is you. Then let us go deeper still, as one submerges not into darkness, but into a vast and silent light, the kind that does not dazzle, but dissolves all illusion. You have not come into this life to collect trophies. You have not come to be measured or ranked. You have come to remember, to awaken to the essence within you that has never changed, that was never born and will never die. And in that remembrance, to walk the earth with open hands and an unguarded heart, radiating the wealth of your being like sunlight through an open window. There is a sacred kind of affluence that flows only from presence, not from control, not from conquest, but from the holy act of allowing life to pass through you, unresisted and unfiltered. That kind of wealth cannot be taken from you because it does not reside in things. It resides in your being, in your willingness to let go of needing to be someone and instead allowing yourself to be a vessel of something much greater. The oak tree does not compare itself to the willow. The mountain does not wish to become the sea. They do not measure themselves by output. They simply are. And in that being, they serve their purpose without anxiety. You too are meant to be a unique and unrepeatable expression of the infinite, not a copy of what the world applauds. But you have been taught to doubt your worth, to believe that success is earned through sacrifice of self, that love must be deserved, that freedom comes after striving. You were taught to chase images, to decorate your identity with accolades, to confuse security with the accumulation of possessions. But security born from fear is not security, it is imprisonment. The soul was never meant to be caged. And so if you feel restless, if you feel weary, it is not because you are failing. It is because your spirit is longing to return to truth. It is not that you want too much, it is that you've been asking for too little, not in size, but in substance. You've been asking for crumbs of approval when your soul is calling for the feast of liberation. This is the banquet This is the sacred table set not with gold, but with grace, where nothing is required and everything is given, where you come not to perform, but to remember, to eat of the bread of presence, to drink from the well of inner stillness, and in doing so, to become full, not with pride, but with peace. The truly wealthy are not those with the most, but those who need the least, because they have learned to draw from within. Their joy is not conditional. Their giving is not transactional. Their love is not withheld until circumstances comply. They have touched the eternal and brought it with them into each moment. Can you feel what that would be like? To wake each day and not brace against life, but open to it. To trust the unfolding even when the map is unclear. To walk not with answers, but with presence. This is not a fantasy. It is your nature. It is the blueprint encoded into your being, long before fear took root. And now you are being asked to return, not to abandon the world, but to live in it from a place of remembrance, to handle money without letting it define you, to welcome success without letting it possess you, to hold relationships without needing them to complete you. You complete you. The divine within you completes you. And when you know this, truly know it, then your life ceases to be a negotiation and becomes an offering. You stop trying to be enough and start living from the overflow. You begin to walk through this world like a river, nourishing, flowing, and never doubting your source. This is abundance. It is not flashy. It is not boastful. It is not brittle. It is soft. It is spacious. It is still. It is the unshakable center that watches empires rise and fall without losing itself. It is the eternal whisper that says, I am not defined by gain or loss, by praise or blame, by what is given or taken. I am. That is enough. And when you anchor into that truth, life begins to reorganize around your vibration. Not because you demanded it, but because you became a clear vessel, a tuning fork for truth. And all that is false begins to fall away, not with effort, but with grace. Let the world misunderstand you. Let the numbers not make sense. Let the opinions swirl. And still you be still. Stillness is the soil of miracles. And in stillness, wealth emerges not as a possession, but as a presence. Not as something you hold, but something you are. Then let us come to the sacred close. Not as an end, but as a return. A homecoming, long awaited, yet always one breath away. You have journeyed far, not in miles, but in perception. Through the thickets of striving, the deserts of doubt, the long corridors of forgetting. You have tasted the hollow sweetness of success, divorced from self, and the quiet ache of having much, yet feeling little. And still, something in you would not rest. Something ancient, something holy. It stirred beneath the surface, whispering of a different kind of wealth. A wealth not bought, not sold, not flaunted, but felt. And now, you are beginning to feel it. The spaciousness of a heart no longer clenched. The softness of a mind no longer racing. The radiance of a being no longer at war with itself. This is wealth. Not the kind that builds empires, but the kind that builds eternity. Not the kind that perishes, but the kind that reveals what never could. Look within you. The evidence is there. The stillness you once feared now feels like home. The breath you once ignored now feels like prayer. The moment you once tried to escape now feels like presence. You are awakening to the gold within the treasure that was buried not in distant lands, but beneath your very awareness. And with every breath you unearth it. You remember. You remember that the soul does not hustle, it does not chase, it does not compare or compete. It simply shines, it knows its source, it trusts the tides. It walks in grace even when the path is not clear. Let this be your walk now, not as one seeking approval, but as one offering presence. Not as one trying to achieve significance, but as one realizing their sacredness was never in question. Let your life be a poem, not a pitch. A prayer, not a performance. A river, not a race. And let your wealth be measured not in things, but in how deeply you feel, how freely you love, how softly you listen to the quiet wisdom within. This world will tell you otherwise. It will tempt you with noise. It will try to sell you back to yourself in 1,000 forms. But you will know better. Because you have touched the truth, and once touched, it cannot be untasted. That truth says, you are already whole. You are already held. You are already home. So let go of the grasping. Let go of the proving. Let go of the image that begged to be polished. Let all things false fall away. And in their place, let your soul stand bare and luminous, unapologetic, untamed, unedited, because that is what this world needs. Not more perfection, but more presence. Not more accumulation, but more aliveness. Not more noise, but more light. You are that light. You always have been. You do not need to become wealthy. You need to remember that you already are. The fields of sufficiency are vast and open. Walk in them now, not as a stranger, not as a seeker, but as the one who has come home to themselves. Let every breath affirm it. Let every step embody it. Let your silence echo it, and let your life whisper to all who meet you without a single word. Wealth is a state of mind, and you, beloved, are rich beyond measure.